All right, let's dive into a story that's all about catastrophic failure, an incredible second chance, and a change so profound you could literally see it. We're jumping into Exodus 34, right at the moment when it seems like all hope is lost. So let's set the scene, because it is an absolute disaster. The first set of the Ten Commandments, this sacred covenant from God, is lying in pieces in the dust. The people broke their promise almost immediately. So, what happens now? What do you do? Well, Moses has to turn around, go right back up that mountain, and face God all over again. And this is where our story really picks up. It's not about revenge or punishment. It's about a command to just start over. This is Moses' mission, a do-over after a total and complete failure. Okay, verse 1. The action kicks off right away. God tells Moses to cut 2 new stone tablets, just like the old ones. But listen to the wording. The first tablets which you broke. There's this powerful subtext here. You broke them, Moses, so you're going to be the one to cut the new ones. You can just picture him, can't you? The sparks flying, the sound of the chisel. This time, he's physically part of remaking the covenant. It's personal now. Now, in verses 2 and 3, the instructions get really stark, really serious. Moses has to be ready by morning, and he has to come up the mountain completely alone. No one else, no people, not even any animals are allowed near the base of the mountain. This is not a public event. This is a private, intense, and incredibly important meeting. And in verse 4, what does Moses do? He just obeys. No arguments, no questions. He cuts the stones, gets up before dawn, and starts that long climb, carrying these heavy, blank tablets. Just try to feel the weight of that journey. He is literally carrying the raw materials for his people's entire future on his back. So what happens next on top of that mountain is the absolute core of this entire chapter. See, this meeting isn't just about getting a new list of rules. It's about Moses, and really all of us, finally understanding the character of the God who's giving the rules. Verse 5 is pure cinematic power. I mean, imagine this. God himself descends in a cloud, stands there with Moses, and then proclaims his own name. Think about the sound, the swirling wind, the raw energy of a divine being appearing right in front of you on a lonely mountaintop. And in verses 6 and 7, God basically gives his own resume. He defines himself. And it's this incredible combination. On one hand, he's merciful, gracious, patient, full of love and faithfulness. But on the other hand, he is just. He doesn't just ignore wrongdoing. This perfect balance of grace and justice is right at the heart of who he is, and it becomes a foundation for everything that comes after. So how do you even react to that? Verse 8 shows Moses' gut reaction. He immediately hits the ground and worships. It's pure instinct. And then in verse 9, he starts pleading for his people. He basically says, look, I know we are stubborn, rebellious people, but please forgive us. Take us as your own. So with God's character laid bare and Moses' plea for his people on the table, the foundation is reset. Because God is both merciful and just, the relationship can actually be restored. And now, it's time to lay out the specific terms, the rules of the house, so to speak. Verses 12 through 16 present this really fundamental choice. God tells them, do not make treaties with the people who live in the land you're going to. And why? Because their whole culture of idol worship is seen as a spiritual trap. It's designed to pull them away. The command is to stay separate, to be exclusively loyal. It's a clear-cut choice between following God's path or just blending. And then, bam, verse 17. It hits like a hammer. You shall make no molded gods for yourselves. This is a direct, sharp, unavoidable callback to the golden calf disaster that started this whole mess. The message is clear. No more of that. The lesson has to stick this time. Now, verses 18 and 22 show us that this covenant is way more than just a list of don'ts. It actually creates a whole new rhythm for life, a calendar that revolves around God. The entire year is shaped by these 3 huge feasts, and each one is a constant reminder of God's power and his provision. And speaking of rhythm, verse 21 introduces this radical idea of rest. Work for 6 days, but on the 7th, you stop. And this isn't just a friendly suggestion. It applies even during the most frantic, busy times of the year, plowing and harvest. It's a built-in, weekly act of trust, a way of saying that God's provision is bigger than your nonstop effort. Verses 19, 20, and 26 really drill down on this one key principle, giving God the first and the best. The first animal born, the first crops from the harvest. Now, this wasn't because God needed their stuff. It was a physical, tangible reminder that everything they had came from him in the first place. It taught them trust from the very beginning. Then we get to verse 28, and it's just mind-blowing. Moses is up on that mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. No food, no water. This is completely supernatural. He's being sustained by the very presence of God, completely immersed in receiving and writing down this new covenant. And now, we get to the absolutely stunning conclusion of this story. Moses finally comes back down the mountain with the new tablets, but something about him has been fundamentally changed, and this time, everyone can see it. Here's the incredible detail from verse 29. As Moses is coming down the mountain, his face is literally shining, glowing with this divine, reflected glory from being in God's presence. And the craziest part? He has no idea. He's completely unaware of how he's been transformed. But the people, they see it. Verse 30 tells us that when Aaron and everyone else looked at Moses, they were terrified. This wasn't some soft, gentle glow. This was an awesome, frightening, overwhelming radiance. They were afraid to even get close to the guy who had just been with God. So how does Moses handle this? Verses 31 to 33 show him acting as the perfect bridge. First, he calls out to them, calms them down. Second, he does his job and delivers God's commandments. And third, after he's done speaking, he puts a veil over his face to shield them from that intense, lingering glory. And the final verses, 34 and 35, they set up this new daily pattern for Moses' life. When he goes in to speak with God, the veil comes off. It's total openness. When he comes out to speak to the people, the veil goes back on, mediating that glory for them. It's the perfect picture of his unique role as the go-between. And that really leaves us with this one last thought. This story shows us that a genuine encounter with the divine doesn't leave you the same. It leaves a mark. So the question it pushes back on us is, if you really spent time in that presence, what would be different? How would you shine?